Hello everyone, my name is Barely Scripted. I am a hopefully upcoming family-friendly Warhammer YouTuber. In this video I will be attempting to paint an Imperial Fist, and it will begin a series where I paint one Space Marine for every major chapter. First off, I started with an aerosol undercoating of white Scar, which I then covered all the major armour pieces in Imperial Fist. Before we get too far into the video, just allow me to apologise for any imperfections that happen with both the recording of the content and of my voice. These videos are also intended to be tutorials for anyone hoping to begin creating an army of this sort of Space Marine. These tutorials will be made completely with paintbrushes and Games Workshop paint. Any non-official products I use will be something that you could easily find around the house or get from your local hobby or DIY shop to prove that Warhammer can be accessible for anyone starting out without the correct funding. While the time-lapse catches up, I will just set some ground rules for this channel. First, I aim to create a family-friendly environment, not just in my videos but also in the comments section. Secondly, please don't expect any schedule, as I am starting major exams over the next couple of weeks. Finally, if this channel does get enough traction, I might eventually open up branches where I do figure reviews and gameplay of games like Ark and Minecraft. Really not quite sure what else to say while the video catches up, so I will let the time-lapse play and I will catch up when I move on to the next part. I've changed my mind about leaving youth until the video catches up, due to it being purely too quiet. So I've gathered some facts off of Google about the Imperial Fists. The Primarch of the Imperial Fists is Rogal Dorn. They were the 7th Legion of Space Marines during the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy. In the 41st millennium, the Imperial Fists are not planet-based, often operating from either Terra or Phalanx, their space-based fortress. The Imperial Fists were not present at the Istvan V drop site massacre due to Rogal Dorn being instructed to stay on Terra and fortify the planet for Horus's eventual invasion. And finally, their Primarch, Rogal Dorn, went missing in the early 32nd millennium during the Black Crusade and was last seen storming a Chaos vessel. The only remnant of their Primarch is his hand, which is kept aboard Phalanx and is potentially what inspired their current insignia of the closed fist. Now I am painting a Space Marine's belt and a watered down mix of Abbadon black and water in a 1-to-1 ratio. The reason I use water and not any official product like Latvian Medium is because personally I don't see the point in spending money on Latvian Medium when water does the same job. As you can see here, I'm just rotating the model to see if there's any areas which I have missed with the current colour palette. Now the black has dried, I've moved on to Mephiston red, which I will use for both the Aquila on the chest and one of the shoulder pads. I've used the same ratio of 1-to-1 Mephiston red and water to water the paint down to prevent it clogging in any of the fine details of the Aquila. Now all that is dried, the final step on the torso will be to add Leadbelcher to the under armour. This is to prevent the under armour from meshing in with the rest of the armour as one big yellow ball. Off camera, I added the backpack rebreather thing that all Space Marines have, due to my process of gluing being a bit more finicky than just taking the lid off the bottle. This backpack will have the same dowsing of the Imperial Fist's contrast paint. I also painted the vents on the sides of the backpack in Leadbelcher, which admittedly I did forget to record. And with that, the body has finished, and now I am moving on to the arms. I will begin by painting the casing of the gun with the same mixture of watered down Abbadon black in a 1:1 ratio. This will be to catch the casing, but none of the metallic areas like the barrel and the aquila. I'm really sorry that I didn't manage to catch any of this on camera. I then proceeded to realise that I had painted the iron sights with the Abbadon black when they needed to be Leadbelcher. Here I'm just holding the arms up to the model to check that they fit correct. Now I've come in back again with the Imperial Fist to paint the arms and the hands holding the gun, being as careful as I can to not get any Imperial Fist on where we've already painted. I proceeded to then realise that all of what I've just painted you couldn't really see because my thumb was in the way. I then glued the scope onto the gun and the arms onto the body. I proceeded to finish off painting the body of the gun, the Abbadon black and water mixture, along with the main body of the scope. I painted the magazine and Leadbelcher and picked out the raised details with, I believe, Balthazar gold. I also caught the Aquila and the zoom on the scope in the similar Balthazar gold. I painted the equivalent of a glass piece of the scope with Enchanted blue. I don't know what the modern name of it is, but I believe Macragge blue would work just as well. Here you can see me painting the aforementioned Balthazar gold pieces on the scope and the gun. Now I'm moving on to painting the head, which obviously it will be Imperial Fist. I painted the ventilation tubes of the mask in Leadbelcher. Here you can see me trying my best to tidy up the excess paint I put on to the rebreather pieces. Now I'm going back over the eyes and picking them out with Enchanted blue. I don't know what their modern name is, but I'm sure if you go into a Games Workshop and ask, they could give you an answer. Now, nearing the end of the tutorial, I have glued the head and shoulder pads onto the model. This side will be pure Imperial Fist with the studs picked out in Leadbelcher. On the other side, the interior of the shoulder pad will be Imperial Fist and outlined with the aforementioned mix of Mephiston red and water. Here you can see me picking out the studs on the shoulder pad in Leadbelcher, and eventually I will go back over and try to clean up where I have spilt. I didn't realise it was here that I did the Mephiston red. I thought it was when I started on the shoulder pads. But anyway, here it is. There is some slight spill which I will try to clean up to no avail. But I suppose it doesn't really matter because, as Bob Ross said, they're all happy little mistakes. Was it Bob Ross that said that? I think so. I'm not really quite sure what I was pointing to here. Now we move on to my favourite part of painting a model, the shading. I've gone over all the metallic bits, so the under armour, the vents, the metallics on the gun, and the bonding studs on the shoulder pad with Nuln oil. This is the shade I use for all metallic pieces. Here I use a piece of paper towel to just drag any excess Nuln oil out of the vent. I use the same technique here with the paper towel to make sure that the Nuln oil just pulls around the bottom of the studs. Now moving on to highlighting, this is all a personal preference, but for mine I tried to get a bit of a cell shaded look by picking out the raised edges on the top of the helmet, both the knee pads and the shoulder pads. Now I'm moving on to the base. As you can see, I've already started. I just hot glued. I believe as a forewarning, I have to ask a parent or carer for help with lollipop sticks if you're under, like, I don't know, I think 16 it is. I then used a bigger basing brush to paint snakebite leather over the lollipop sticks to give them more of a wooden battlement look. I then used another lollipop stick to apply a generous serving of Stirland mud to the base where there wasn't any lollipop sticks present, trying to get some onto the lollipop sticks to get a raised mud look, like the battlements had been pushed into the ground. Finally, I go back over the lollipop sticks in a wash of Agrax earthshade to get a wooden, wet and rotting look. I let the Agrax earthshade pool to help create this look. And now we are at the end of the video. I did not include adding the transfer due to my immense struggle with trying to get it to sit flat. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching.